Nearly half of WoW players have quit. Is this it here? If it's misleading, we'll do
Welcome back to the
else.
Warcraft news.
How about that?
Yeah, rather shocking title, isn't it?
Wow.
I was a bit surprised whenever I saw that story pop up on stream, but no worries though, it is all actually quite interesting. Speaking of, by the way, streams on Fridays on this channel. We've been doing them for a bit.
Oh yeah, I
First time
saw
I've
one of
actually
these.
mentioned a video, so
Yeah.
come along. It's good fun. And also, we've got a new channel. Yes, a new channel. This is where
Another
the
one?
choice cuts of what
God
we
damn,
do
this guy's
go.
got 3 YouTube channels.
News, discussion topics, and a
I
whole
guess I do
bunch
too.
more. So if
Shit.
you would like quick hits of our content, check out the Bellular Clips channel, which is linked down below, and give that a sub. Thank you for all your support. And with that said, let's get stuck into the news.
Stuck in. WoW falls.
So to kick us off, WoW's
Goddamn.
player base almost halving and revenue more than halving. Whoa, this changes everything, I may say, in a video thumbnail. But actually, there is plenty to understand here because these numbers, they're not from some whack job on Twitter or something. No, they're from Superdata. They're a research firm who got picked up by Nielsen. Yes, Matt Nielsen, the big media analytics firm, a few years ago. They are
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be called Superdata if it was wrong, you know?
legit. And indeed, much of the positive news about WoW subs recently has came from Superdata. So, revenue down 61%, players down 41%. Sounds like doom, doesn't it?
Wow.
Well, not necessarily. It does mean that some things aren't ideal. But
God damn,
here
that's
is the bottom
huge.
line. World of Warcraft has extreme
That is
seasonality.
fucking huge.
And this pattern of a massive launch followed up by a crash in players is actually typical for the game. Of course, Superdata points.
It's an unfortunate reality that, like, nowadays, whenever a game comes out, whenever expansion comes out, like, people, it doesn't really retain in the same way that, like, Wrath or BC, like, retained people. I don't know if that's because, like, now you've just got so many more people that are, you know, they're playing all these different games. It's, like, so much easier to play different games. But I don't know. It's hard to say.
Out that this is typical for World of Warcraft over the last few years, last few expansions, but that this time it did actually start with a particularly strong launch. Now, revenue falling by more than the player count does make a lot of sense.
That is a lot.
Of course, 6-month subscriptions were locked in like November, December. More tokens were purchased by players during launch.
Yeah,
more
that's
race
true, too.
changes for the new customizations, things like that. And of course, more sales. Now, players...
Dude, that's crazy how much they've monetized the game. That means they're, like, making half, like, 50% more than, like, what they'd be making just by the players. So, like, they're making 50% more revenue just through their microtransactions and shit. If, like, you do the math. That's crazy.
Being down by
kinda scary.
41% means that, yeah, those players are actually leaving. But of course, most people are, or many people are only interested in the first month or two of an expansion.
It's the best part
and
of it.
then maybe, you know, a patch launch month. Now the
Probably a
question
couple
is,
weeks,
is
realistically.
that a problem? That is what World of Warcraft's player activity these days is like. I would say, of course, this is a problem, because if you keep on churning through players, you will lose them over time. Now, Superdata...
What do you guys think? Do you still play WoW? Yes, I still play Shadowlands, still play Classic. No, I quit both. That's crazy. Like, I see a lot of people, like, we did a poll like this, like, 2 days ago or, like, a day ago. So, like, I guess we do another one. It's not a big deal. But, like, the point is, like, we've done this before, and I looked at what the breakdown was, and it does seem like so many people just stop playing. Like, they just stop playing. I do think to an extent this is just the way people play games. Like, they come back to games and they play them for a while, they come back. It's the same as reasons why, like, you know, these games have like battle passes in order to create like hype for the game and get people to come back. It's the same reason why games have like seasons and they change up the map so people can feel like they're playing a new game again, to kind of like surf that high.
correctly points out that WoW Classic means that World of Warcraft, the business, can have a yearly spike each year instead of every 2 years. And that certainly is good, but it does risk
Classic
masking the problem of, well, yeah, many players jumping ship. Now, if we look back to the vanilla through Warlords of Draenor run, you can see that TBC, Wrath, Cataclysm, and MoP did not have decreases anywhere near what Superdata report. Now, Warlords of Draenor did, but I think we all know why. That is an expansion that ran out of steam extremely quickly, meaning that really only the PvPers and the raiders had something to do. So,
Dude, WoD was the worst expansion ever. Like, I know people say BFA was. I still really think that WoD was the worst expansion ever. It was, I mean, they were both really bad, okay? Like, I mean, at that point, it's like, do you want to get kicked in the dick or punched in the dick? I mean, I don't know. They both fucking suck. But the point is that the game was in a really, really bad state, so it made sense for that many people to quit. But I think after that, and to see things go down, every expansion seems like it's just, even if it's a good expansion like Legion was good. Shadowlands Beginning's good. I think it's just player behavior nowadays. That's the truth.
have you quit? Why? Why have you quit? What's happened? I've not quit, and I actually know why I haven't, and I think that's rather revealing.
It's his
because
job.
when I logged in to get my Denathrius ahead of the curve kill a while ago, my character was already in Castle Nathria. Yeah, I actually hadn't played that character between raids. Why? Well, there just wasn't anything that I wanted to do outside of what I do with friends, which is raiding. Solo world content has sucked since Warlords of Draenor, in my opinion, and I think it still sucks now. In the past, individual reputations like Cloud Serpent, Golden Lotus, Netherwing, and Sketis, those were things that felt, well, a bit different than generic world quests. In many cases,
I feel like they felt that way to an extent because they were new. It's like, would people still feel that way about it now if it wasn't new? It's just another grind. Yeah, Mechagon was dope. Yeah, it's like there's some cool stuff that they've added recently that was good, and I think people just are looking for, they're looking for a new experience, and you can only dress up and change something like this so many times before people realize that it's the same thing. And I think that's really why people get so hyped up about like Ashes of Creation. They get so hyped up over New World. They get so hyped up over these other MMOs, is because everybody's waiting on that next big thing. And like Shadowlands is going to be great, but like at the end of the day, it's WoW. You played WoW forever. You know what it's going to be. People are looking for like, what is the next like Fortnite in a way, like a game that like really kind of innovates in a way. Someone said Fortnite. Yeah, I know it's popular to hate Fortnite, but Fortnite was an innovative and really interesting and crazy game that completely, took the world by storm because it was that new thing. It was special, and it did a lot of things really, really right. The fact is that WoW was that thing back in the day. WoW was that innovation. And I think people are looking for that next level of innovation at this point. People want to have a game. I really believe that there are so many people out there that are just waiting and begging and praying for a game that's worthy to waste their life over. That's what it is. Like, am I the only one here? Like, I want a game that I can spend 12 hours a day on and feel like I'm not wasting my time. Like, my time that I played WoW, until like very recently, I never felt like, when I was like playing Wrath, I never felt like I was wasting my time. I still don't feel like I wasted my time because I had so much fun. It was so fulfilling. It was great. I was so happy. And people want to have that experience again. We need solo queue? That's like a fraction. Like that's nothing. The thing is that this is such a problem. This is a problem that's like even bigger than the entire game. It's a problem that whenever you bring out a game like Rift, whenever you bring out a game like Aeon, they're just like the same boring, like repackaged paradigms and gear progression systems that you've seen 100 times before. It's just not interesting. I think that like also like let's go back. I'm almost done with my my rant. Look at Valheim, for example. Valheim did a lot of things that were pretty different. They innovated a little bit on the survival genre. There's a lot of things that are punishing in Valheim and some things that are not, like building. Building's great in Valheim. And just even that little bit of innovation, you have 5 million people, 5 million players downloaded a game made by 5 people. Everybody is looking for that next new thing. Everybody wants what that next new thing is. Is WoW ever going to be that next new thing? I don't know. I think WoW is always going to be that thing that you can always go back to and play and get excited about cyclically, but I don't know if it's ever going to have that main game appeal.
Those reputations would have their own little story moments, and the actual stuff that you did would change as the rep increased. Each one of these things in the past would give you 20 to 30 days of gameplay and neat rewards that were not to do with player power.
Yeah.
And they were the kind of thing that would just stand to the game for really the life of the expansion. You know, when Sunwell was out, people were still doing some Netherwing.
Exactly.
And each one of these things, giving you your 20 to 30 days of gameplay, would help to keep people in the game.
Yep.
The thing is, though, content like this doesn't really exist anymore. And I think that's because Blizzard learned the wrong lesson.
It's because Blizzard kills it by adding in new content in the patch afterwards that makes the previous content irrelevant unless it's for people that are like super obsessed with collectibles. That's the problem, is that every patch replaces the old patch. Like, I've said this like a million fucking times, but you don't play the expansion anymore, you play the patch. Like, if Blizzard can overcome that for Shadowlands, the game will be good. But the problem is that I don't think they can ever do that with all the catch-up systems they have. So, for example, in Burning Crusade, if you come into the game and Sunwell is going to come out next week, you have a lot of content to go through. You've got to go through Karazhan, you've got to go through Mag's Lair, or like Magtheridon, like Gruul, you've got to do tier 5, you've got to do tier 6, and you have all of this content. Like, imagine if you came into Burning Crusade and all you had to do was the second half of Black Temple, and then you'd just be ready for Sunwell. And there is relatively no barrier to entry for getting into that Black Temple raid. Then you would be done with the content so fast. The reason why Classic WoW and the reason why Burning Crusade retained players so well is because they never, like, invalidated content. Like, the content built on itself. And it wasn't like whenever BWL came out, there was no reason to do MC. People are still doing MC, and it's Nax. Now, not as many, of course, but it's still part of the progression cycle. People still do BWL, and it's Nax. That's why the old system worked so much better. And in time, I hope Blizzard realizes that. Because if you look at the graph and how the expansion grew in terms of player numbers, more people started playing the game towards the end of the expansion because there was so much to do. Like, if you were a new player coming into it and you were really addicted to the game, you had so many raids that you had to do. Now you have like 2. That's it. Because Vanilla BC, there were new players coming on board. There are no new players anymore. I don't think that's true, man. Like, I really don't. I think every expansion you have new players. Like, yeah, you're right. Like, WoW isn't the same type of new game that it was back then. But you do have new players. Like, go in Classic WoW even. Like, there's plenty of people that haven't really even played WoW. And they came and they played Classic WoW because they heard it was really cool. Like, there are always new people coming in and playing the game. It's like, for example, like on a stream, like every day you get new followers. And also every day you have people that were following that, you know, that probably most people don't really unfollow. They just like stop watching Twitch or something like that, or they unfollow you. You have to, every game has a churn, and the goal is to make sure that you're positively gaining people faster than you're going to be losing them just organically, because that's the way it goes. People move on for a multitude of reasons. And WoW needs to look. They need to look at how they handle adding in content to these expansions. Because I'm worried that in 8.1, everything that we're doing now isn't going to fucking matter. I don't know. You guys see what I'm saying? Am I 9.1? I mean 9.1. Yeah, I'm in 9.1. Let me keep going.
From Mists of Pandaria's launch, where of course they attached Valor points to daily quests and then removed the daily quest limit, which meant that people had a bit of a revolt over it. But now, a casual, non-instanced PvP or PvE player has just world quests to do, and of course the Covenant campaign. But the world quests, they just feel the same, and therefore factions that are just a bar to fill. I mean, do those factions have a cool base in the world? Do they have neat characters that you interact with? Do they have unique mechanics and storylines? The answer is no, they do not. And they didn't in the last 2 expansions, pretty much.
I feel like what did you guys think of your Covenant campaign? Like, I liked my Covenant campaign. It was all right. It wasn't like crazy or amazing or anything like that, but it was all right. I can't say it was any worse than what we had. I think the Legion Class Order Hall campaigns were better. I like them more, but I think the ones that we have now were all right.
Now, what this amounts to, I
You guys think
something
they
that many
sucked.
casual players will feel.
What do you do?
They play for 2 to 4 weeks, they
go.
cap their character, they
Yeah.
have fun going through the initial gearing process, and then they've got little to do. I mean,
Because they run out of content. That's exactly what I'm saying. Is if you have people like the average player is not going to want to farm out the 18 different mounts that drop from random rare spawns out in Shadowlands. They are not motivated by that because they are not attached to their character in a way that cosmetics make them feel better about themselves, because they don't have that attachment to their character to where the feeling would happen in the first place. So you're never going to get somebody that actually feels that way. So the main way that you get casual players to play the game, the main way that you get average players to play the game, is you give them power gains to go after. Like, cosmetics are not a draw. You want to have people get addicted to the power gains and then start using the cosmetics. You can't start with cosmetics. That's not how it works.
the game's various secrets content. Now, those secrets are great for, the Secrets Discord, for Wowhead guides, but most of the casual player base will never even know they exist. The weekly campaigns that we get for the Covenants, well, those are rationed out to the extreme, such that you'll never really get into the flow or get immersed in them. And let's be real, that's content that's pretty damn shoddily implemented as compared to other MMOs' efforts, even from a few years back. I mean, at least Legion gave that player base Suramar as a thing to get their teeth into.
Suramar. Did I like Suramar? I didn't like how much stealth Suramar had. That annoyed me. Overall, I thought it was it was good though. Like it was, Suramar was probably better than the Class Order Hall campaigns. I'll say that. I do think, or not. Yeah, I think it's Suramar just. That's crazy now that I think about it. Suramar had the Class Order Hall campaigns, and it was Legion. Legion had the Class Order Hall campaigns and Suramar. Suramar is terrible. Yeah, it's like, I get it, but at a certain point, again, I think people just are, they're looking for something that's completely fucking new. I think Legion, to a degree, was like that with artifact weapons and, the legendaries and all of that. Like, Legion, I think Blizzard really did try to flip the board over
After the expansion came out, but I think BFA and Shadowlands really gave them very little. And I think that's why you see some of the extreme seasonality. Those of us who can raid PvP and Mythic Plus, we're just fine. But for the more casual players, and that is a massive group of players, I think, elements of the game are diminishing. I think Blizzard treat those casual players as an afterthought, and I think it's no wonder that they leave, and that we see this extreme seasonality where so many people come back to WoW, and then pretty much half of them leave pretty soon after. Now, as a raider, and I would say this if I was Mythic Plus or PvP focused...
I think also it's that there's no real new content. Like, everything gets scaled up whenever a patch comes out. So, like, whenever the patch for 9.1 comes out, the odds are that a lot of the mobs out in the open world are going to get scaled up. So it's harder to kill them. So you don't really feel like you're progressing your character in the same way because the kill times are relatively the same. Scaling was a terrible idea. I think not only is it a terrible idea, but it's completely contradictory to why MMOs are good, is you don't get to feel the power gain.
All that I really want is a less annoying and more simple system so I can just get in and do great content.
And there's not enough stats in the game.
I would rather Blizzard's extra effort went into other parts of the game. I mean, perhaps I wouldn't be raid logging my character, and the people who have given super data their 41% number, well, perhaps they wouldn't be leaving. Legion gave us Suramar and a few other things. BFA gave that casual player base islands and warfronts. Shadowlands gave them...
So it didn't give them anything.
The same old with world quests, a set of just okay campaigns, and a version of Torghast that ended up being an exercise in self-sabotage. So no wonder they're leaving. That's why...
I do think that Torghast is better than Islands. Some people think Torghast is worse. Other people think Islands are worse. Like, I actually think that Islands are way worse than Torghast. Like, Torghast is not really that bad. Islands were terrible. The only reason why I would think that islands would be better is that they were less mandatory.
I would say, fellow Raiders, I don't think it is us that needs love from Blizz. And really, that's my prime analysis for this super data thing. This essentially is what we've seen happen for the last few expansions.
Yeah.
It is a very big headline-grabbing number, absolutely, but I think when you take it in context, it's not wholly surprising because it is what's been going on for the last while. And again, those older subgraphs that don't seem to show that, they are from the game's growth phase, so you would expect to see less of that seasonal dip, especially that's the case when people were still, only having a few characters. All the rewards seemed a bit more exciting, and, it was just a different point in time. So that's my take on why 41% of the players reportedly have...
I also think another big reason is because whenever the game is growing in players, less people hit the apex of their character. So basically, the way that a lot of people play video games is they will play video games and you'll be going up and you hit a point of diminishing returns in a lot of games where your character stops becoming as powerful. You stop making 20% power gains and 50% power gains, and you start making 0.2% power gains and 0.5% power gains. And at some point on that diminishing return level, that's whenever a lot of people quit the game. So, for example, this happens in Diablo, it happens in Path of Exile, even though Path of Exile does probably the best job at preventing this from happening, but it happens with every game. And so whenever I quit the game back in like Burning Crusade, or I stopped playing for a while in Burning Crusade or Wrath or anything like that, many of the times that I stopped playing, and I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but many of the times that I stopped playing were whenever I hit that apex, whenever I hit that plateau. And whenever you get to that point, that's whenever you think, okay, well, what now? And it's the same thing, ironically, with Valheim, is that I didn't even want, this sounds stupid, I didn't want to kill the last boss. Like, I spent like 1 or 2 days. I could have killed the last boss like 2 days earlier than whenever I did, but I didn't want to do that because I knew that whenever I killed that last boss, the game would be symbolically over for me, and all the progression that I made would be done. Like, I already had all the best gear and everything, but having that thing above you that okay, I still have to do this, serves as a motivator. And once you lose those different types of power gains, and once you're not able to make those jumps anymore, that's whenever players lose focus, that's whenever players lose interest. And I think what happens in Shadowlands and what happens in a lot of these expansions recently is that apex that players reach, that plateau that they reach, happens so early that as soon as they hit that plateau, they stop playing. And the worst part about it is that Blizzard has conditioned them to do that because the entire game is built around hitting, 80% of your power level in 20% of the time. So guess what happens? People stop playing 20% of the time in. That's what happens. And you always need a carrot on a stick. Exactly. And the problem is, like, the carrot on a stick halfway through a patch is just so small that it's not worth working for. And like, you hit, for example, like, I'm 226 item level, and I'm not saying that there needs to be like really, really hard gear to get or anything like that, because I'm like, I'm a pretty high level player, and in the grand scheme of things, most people don't hit 2.1k. Most people, some people don't even hit 1800. But you look at raids, I'm talking about in the grand scheme of things, right? I mean, I'm not saying I'm the best player. I'm not the best player. I'm average, right? Maybe I'm a little bit above average, but I play all the time. Most people don't have that opportunity. Most people are not playing all the time. They don't know what I know in the game. What I'm saying is that for many people, they're never going to be able to get to that point, and so they just stop playing. And like back in Burning Crusade, it was a lot easier, I would say, and it was a lot more evident what the path to progression was. And you could see somebody that had really good gear, and they were a lot better than you were. Yeah, it's not, the pacing for gearing right now is not, it's not good. It hasn't been good for years because Blizzard's afraid to tell people that they can't do certain bits of content. Blizzard is afraid to have content come out and for every single player in the player base to not be able to do it. They're not going to release content. Like, every once in a while, they'll release like Crucible of Storms, for example. Crucible of Storms is really hard. Even on normal mode, it was really hard. And comparatively to, you know, BOD, before I have any, you know, fucking world first raiders in here tell me that, you know, it wasn't that hard. Hopefully you see what I'm saying. As to your boring ass Mythic Plus crap. Yeah, exactly. And that's the issue, is that if you don't give players something that they can aspire to, and you just give them everything without giving them something that they have to work towards, then you're conditioning players to not work towards anything. And if you're conditioning people to not work towards anything, you have this culture of apathy where once people reach a very, very low plateau in their gear, they stop playing the game, because there are these like huge breakpoints that you reach where you get to the point and you've done, you know, like all your heroics, you've done your world quests, and you played the entire game solo, and Blizzard doesn't condition players to play with each other anymore in organized ways like Mythic Plus or like raids. So you're basically like, the difficulty gap is like this, and then you hit the point where you have to actually play with other people that want to play with you, and so you can't just do your own thing anymore, and it goes up like a fucking mountain. That's what the issue is. Whenever you have these systems and they give you so many rewards for playing by yourself, and you compare that to what they had in Classic WoW, for example, where in Classic WoW, if you wanted to kill Hogger and you were level 9 or level 10, especially level 9, I think that's whenever you can get the quest, you had to make a group. So from the very beginning of the game, you're conditioned to playing with other people. Whereas in current WoW, you're not conditioned to playing with other people in an organized way. And I think that's a huge problem. Like making things, and I know this is like a hard sell for a lot of people, but I think that you should have to, like, that's why I don't like the group finder. I don't like, or automated group finder, like LFD. I don't like any of that stuff, because you don't have to play with other people. You should have to play with other people. If you don't like playing with other people, maybe don't play a massively multiplayer game. I'm just saying. That doesn't mean you don't give solo players anything, but right now the experience is pretty much built for solo players.
Left since the launch of this expansion. I'd like to know what yours is, especially if you're one of those people who has left. Next up, one of the more major and less expected changes for 9.0.5, and that is the Great Vault, because Blizzard are reducing requirements for the 2 and 3 option slots by 1. And that means you'll get
just
1
loot
option for killing 3 bosses, 2 loot options for killing 6, and 3 options for killing 9 bosses. So for the 2 and 3 options, that's 1 less than before. And that does actually mean that people who are, say, progressing on Denathrius...
Did they buff, did they nerf the Mythic Plus one either? Because, like, I think that it's dumb that you have to do 15 or, like, 10 Mythic Plus dungeons. Like, raiding, the reason why people aren't raiding is because it's too punishing for the rewards that it gives you. You can sit in a raid for 4 hours that you have to plan and schedule time for. So you have to wipe on a boss for, like, you know, 3.5 hours to finally have that boss drop 3 pieces of gear, and you don't get one of those pieces of gear, or maybe you do, and your guild guilt trips you into giving it to somebody else because you can trade it, and then that's the end of your raid. Like, raiding is just not, it's just not rewarding. It's too much work. And they're trying to solve it with, like, oh, you have to do less bosses. No, you make the, either you make the bosses easier or you make them more rewarding. Like, they should have made it to where, for example, like, getting, like, the top tier of the 226 PvP gear, they should have made, like, the, they should have made that maybe, like, 2.4K or something like that. Because right now, PvP gear is comparatively, like, really, really, really easy to get. And it's the exact same as Mythic Raid gear, minus, like, 1 stat.
Denathrius will get 3 options, even when they don't defeat him. And I guess that seems reasonable, and when combined with the 33% drop increase that they hotfixed in, I think that Raiders will be happy enough with gear, at least until patch 9.1, where Ian said that they are going to be doing more for Raider loot. Okay, on to the rest of the 9.0.5 stuff, and I'll just race through it. So, Valor points. You'll be getting 35 VP for doing a calling, and 50 VP for doing an epic calling. Now, if 1 week gave you 2 epics and 5 normals, that would be 275 Valor points. That's enough to purchase one single 3 to 4 item level upgrade for a single bit of gear.
What do you guys think about the Valor points? I know, like, I wasn't streaming whenever they added that, so I never got a chance to really talk about it. But what do you guys think about it?
With 25 VP left over. Here's
Trash.
a pro-life tip. 3 item levels for a single bit of gear in return for doing 7 callings is just not worth it.
Yeah.
Now, I think
True.
the Blizzard here is trying to throw a bone to casuals, making them feel included in this new gearing system.
It's a waste
but
of time.
I think it is so not worth doing in terms of the time spent that it's just not something they should bother with. It kind of reminds me of daily quests and Valor points back in Mists of Pandaria, where the daily quests weren't the problem. People being incentivized to do them when they didn't really enjoy them, that was the problem. So if you ask me, the casual player base, in fact, deserves better than this. And I don't mean they deserve way more Valor points so that they can, rocket through the Mythic Plus gearing system. No, I think what they need is something that's way better for the way that they play the game. Instead,
Casuals have basically, the gearing system that casuals have had to deal with has always just been a shittier version of the raid gear system. Like, Blizzard's idea of casual player progression is you are going to do the same raid that everybody else does, but the mechanics are cosmetic and you don't talk to anybody and you just hit the boss and it dies. It's actually a bad experience. Like, I really think it's a bad experience. I don't know. Maybe other people enjoy it and stuff like that. That's cool. But to me, I don't think that's it, man. Like, I don't think that helps a casual player. Like, I give you an example, right? My mom is a casual player. She raided in, like, vanilla WoW and BC, and by the time that, like, Cataclysm was out, she was done raiding. And it's not like LFR got her into the game to get her raiding again, because it's just not fun. It's not fun to do. And I wonder if they ever think about that. Like, is this actually fun? Like, are people that do this content, are they having fun? Because I don't think that they are. Has she played Shadowlands? No, she hasn't.
just a paltry 35 VP for doing all those world quests.
Yeah.
It seems a bit off to me. Now, the Valor Point weekly cap remains at 750, and your character can hold 1,500 at a time. And
why is it capped? Why is Valor capped? Did they say why? It's not anymore? Okay, cool. They changed it? That's good.
That Blizzard have also, on the PTR, added in bundles of crafting materials to the vendor, each costing 750 VP.
It's good.
Then moving on, class balancing is still ongoing, and to be honest with you, I don't really deem it super worth covering for now because it's all...
Every time I read class balancing and there's not a fucking bullet point that says warriors and it says PvP under it, oh my god, I breathe the biggest sigh of relief. Dude, it's only a matter of time till they catch on to us, man. It's only a matter of time. Give me a second, let me turn it off. All right, I'm just gonna use the other one for now. Warriors are such bullshit. Oh my god. No, it's not it.
All very subject to change.
Of course not.
And similar is going on with dungeons. They're receiving tuning as well. And I think that's stuff that's mostly going to be relevant to the higher end Mythic Plus community who are really trying to push their keys.
Yeah.
Also, the Venthyr Ember Court is being made a bit less tedious. That's primarily through the ability to unlock RSVPs with best friends, like permanently, and at Exalted Rep, being able to have the cleanup and restocking bits handled for you.
I've only done this
I know
once.
because I've not played a Venthyr. Now next, for PvP, we're seeing changes to Epic Battlegrounds where basically Ashran is now 35 players a faction, the summoning cost for Cronus and Fangral has been halved, and the Tower Mages are basically weaker now so that they play less of a role in the flow of combat.
Okay.
To be honest, I think we're just going to need to see how that pans out in gameplay to really see what it's like.
Ashran?
I'll say I've rarely had a fun Ashran Epic BG, so let's hope this makes it less of a slog. Then next...
The reason why Ashran sucks is because mass PvP in WoW sucks. There's too many incidental stuns, AoE abilities that cause you to lose control of your character. It just sucks. The lag, there's not even that much lag in Ashran anymore. Like, I do epic BGs like almost every day in order to get the anima. I don't know. I think it's just dog shit, man.
Blizzard have buffed Glaive, Catapult, and Demo health in Isle of Conquest, and they've also buffed the health of Walls and the final boss. Basically, I don't think they're a big fan of just hanger rushing, so they're trying to change the balance there.
I think Isle of Conquest is like just it's fine, right? I mean, it's like such a minor thing. Isle of Conquest is actually my favorite epic BG. I actually really, really like Isle of Conquest, and it's one of my favorite BGs to play, period.
And I think Isle, it suffered from Alterac Valley's problems of easy-to-kill bosses, albeit to a lesser degree, so those changes are probably good. Then we've also seen changes to Winter Grasp. Those are basically going to give attackers a better chance.
Do you know how I play Winter Grasp? You guys want to know how I play? So, if I see the loading screen in Winter Grasp, I assume that it's going to be bad. And as soon as I load in, if the timer doesn't say less than 15 minutes, I AFK out of the BG. Period. Every single time. Unless it's like maybe like 18 or 17 minutes. Like if I start a BG and you're on offense and your alliance in Winter Grasp, and I look at the raid chat, everyone's like, oh no, oh man, oh shit, dude. Not again. And like you see people, and I've been in one, and I've seen there's like 20 people that AFK out of it as soon as they get queued in. Like I immediately quit out of that BG because it fucking sucks. Winter Grasp, what they need to do with it is take it out of the fucking rotation and make it a brawl that happens during Wrath time locking, and that way people that want to play it can play it at that exact time, give it some better rewards, and it's not going to be an issue. Like Winter Grasp, the time to win Winter Grasp is like 2 times more than the time to win every other BG, which for players now is going to be fucking annoying because you're going to be stuck in a BG Winter Grasp for like 40 minutes, whereas all the other ones are like 15. You're wasting your time in this BG. AV is not even remotely as long as Winter Grasp.
So, yeah, perhaps that weekly honor quest has got people doing these epic BGs again, and maybe that's why Blizzard have decided to pay a bit more attention to them. And that's really the core of what's up with patch 9.0.5 right now. Look, it's going to change a little, but it is going to be releasing in March, so do expect to see it pretty soon.
Yeah.
And once that releases, we do expect to see 9.1 hit the PTR, so that's, I think, when the actual news is going to begin. And look, I'll be real with you, like 2021's been a slow start for a while in terms of the news cycle.
Yeah.
I mean, even what Super Data suggests, I have seen that in some player interest, and certainly there's a lot of the more casual commenters who are talking about them bouncing off Shadowlands, so there's probably more to do there, and hopefully 9.1 does it. Now, to round us off for today's episode, I'm going to quickly run you through just a few little things from like the BlizzCon Q&As that you probably missed, the ones like we're done with media outlets. So, with the Maw revamp, now that I've went through a whole bunch more of them, really it seems to me that the Maw's just going to be a new zone. I mean, it will have new bits.
Yeah.
The geometry for what we know now will still be what it is, but there's going to be like new features, new progression. There's something called Covenant Strikes. It's basically the idea of the Covenants are coming to...
It's basically like how the Maw should have probably been released. Everybody, whenever the Maw originally came out, thought that it was unfinished, and then it just got released.
Together. There'll be some Legion invasion-like stuff, which is I think what those Covenant Strikes are. We'll have to see them in PTR, but basically it seems like if you don't like the Maw now, it's effectively going to be a different bit of gameplay in 9.1. Then also for some of our Covenant progression, we're getting enhanced Soulbind conduits.
Nice.
So basically they're adding more depth rather than just adding more Soulbinds, which I think is fair enough, and basically that can mean us getting new little effects, new abilities, and more power for our conduits. Again, though, it seems early days, and we'll have to see what PTR is like. Then also for Torghast, they've essentially given us no details, but they do seem to be very aware of the problems that the people are facing, and a lot of why they're not actually enjoying Torghast, and why they're just finding it to be a constant disappointment loop, and it doesn't always respect their time.
It's a waste of time. And it's just a waste of time. Like I do Torghast every week because I semi enjoy it. I'll be honest. I do semi enjoy doing Torghast, but it's just it's really bland because I played maybe an hour of Hades, And whenever you're playing a game like Hades, and I've seen other people play the game too, the playthroughs they're different. Every Torghast playthrough is basically the same. That's what the issue is the reason why roguelikes are fun is because you're able to get different buffs and they change the way that you play. Torghast doesn't have that. It has like one meta way of playing a character, and that meta way is just better than all of the other ways. Hades is such a good game. It is a good game. I thought about playing it on stream even. I think it is a good game.
So here's to hoping they can nail that. Next up for Flight. From what we understand, Flight is unlocked by finishing the new Covenant campaign. There was a little bit of conflicting info there. I believe one Blizzard dev said it was renown levels, another said it was finishing the Covenant campaign, but I think the TLDR here is there's really no completionist content that you're going to have to do to get flying. You'll just go through those renown levels, do the quest, and then you'll have flying across your accounts.
Which is great. Having to do all the quests in Shadowlands or all of the, the shit back in BFA, it's just a waste of time. Like, it was okay for them to do that at the beginning because it was something new, but now it's not new anymore. Now it's just a chore. So I'm glad they're changing things again. It's a good idea.
Pretty simple. Then also for raid gear, from what we understand, it's going to have extra elements. Now, that might be things like the Crucible of Storms. Could be something else. Who knows? But basically, it seems like we may have, things that'll make raid gear pretty good for raiding.
Yeah.
And perhaps some degree of control over that. All wrapped up in a theme of domination magic. But again, really no details right now. As for player versus player gearing, well, that's where it gets interesting because
what are they going to do?
Suggested that they're looking into something like the Warlords of Draenor system. Now, in WoD, as soon as you would enter PvP combat, what would...
Oh, I fucking hated that, man. Please don't do that. People will complain about new things that Sam would wish for at first place, though. That is probably true. There's always going to be different people that feel differently. But overall, I do think that having good PvP gear that's comparable with raiding gear is a good thing for the game overall. I don't think that the game should remove a PvPer's sense of meaningful progression in item level and getting more powerful, making your character more powerful, just to appease a top 1% of Mythic Raiders that feel like they have to PvP for the gear too. I do think that raiding gear should be better, though. Raiding gear definitely should be better than it is now. Most PvPers want the WoD system. I don't know, man. I'm happy with what they have now.
Happen to you is
I would be okay with resilience
gear,
though.
That PvP gear would increase in item level, and that would essentially mean the PvP gear was always best for PvP, but its item level could be balanced such that it wouldn't mess up the rest of the game, and such that PvPers wouldn't feel like they'd have to do raids to get gear to do PvP with.
Yeah.
So if they can get that working out quite well, then that certainly would be a good thing. In terms of some others then, well, I guess further to the mod, there's going to be a new Venari currency, so I would expect to see just a new different progression there, and they're also going to re-examine the entire Stygia economy. It basically seems like Stygia is being a little bit retired and won't be that important once 9.1 rolls around. Either that or it'll just have an entirely different role. Of course, we've already covered what's going on with the conduits and sockets, so those problems should be gone.
Yeah.
And then on to another point of player friction. Well, it was said to me that they're really not looking into changing the friction for Covenant swapping, but in another interview, Jeremy said that they were very down for a community dialogue over how Covenant swapping feels in light of 9.0.5 and 9.1 making Covenants both more powerful but also more balanced, because of course 9.0.5 is their first major balance wave of the I'm
gonna be upset if they fuck up Condemn, man. I'm gonna be real upset about that.
So should be interesting to see what will go on there. I think overall, if it does become perfectly balanced overall, then they do risk a situation, I think, where a lot of players will, it's like a Flayed Shot is never going to be perfectly balanced such that, in an AoE situation, you wouldn't rather have Wild Spirits. So that could be quite tricky for them to work out. Certainly interested to see how that goes. And then also the Mega Dungeon. It's going to have Mechagon.
That's going to be great. I'm excited about that.
Extremely exciting for me. And then finally, two things. There's going to be a Pepe for each Covenant, and also the Wandering Ancient Mount will be free for all in patch 9.0.5. Though, to be honest, I've got no idea how specifically we get it.
Yeah, I just randomly
learned it to my account. If you're going to do one thing, hit up the Clips channel, hit that sub button. What we're doing, right, is we're basically editing those things up, making them all nice, and that is a great way to get some quick hits of news, little sort of lore hitters, you know. I don't know, do you want to snort a quick line of lore before you, I don't know, go away and put your phone down?
Okay.
The Clips channel's the place for that.
Okay.
So check it out. We're putting a bunch into that and the stream. And, of course, what we're doing in this channel, too. There's hype things coming, so good stuff. Thank you for your support. And with that said, I'll see you next time.
Okay, so, I think this is pretty much what I expected. I remember whenever this video came out, a lot of people tweeted it at me and they wanted me to watch it. And I saved it to watch on stream because I knew a lot of you guys would probably want to hear, you know, like what I thought about it or whatever. But what I think personally is that Shadowlands is going to have the same problems that every WoW expansion ever is going to have from now on, because people just want to always play the new thing. And as soon as people are done playing the new thing, they're going to move on. And that's the way that's why gaming seems like to me. Oh, I said I would watch Mortal Online too. That's right.